I'm MarzGurl.
I'm JoshKnightTheFirst.
And welcome to episode 89 of MokkoriPlay, the only podcast dedicated solely to all things City Hunter.
On today's podcast, we're going to cover Season 2, Episode 38 of City Hunter, titled To Kaori from Rio, With Love at Christmas, Part 2.
Part 2.
Yes. It's August, but it's the week of Christmas there in the show.
Meanwhile, it's the week of tropical storm here in Los Angeles.
It's the weekend of Hurricane,
yeah.
as we're calling it now.
So we are recording this on the Sunday that a hurricane, which downgraded to a tropical storm, hit Los Angeles. And so I'm just really hoping that we're not just hearing a bunch of the rain outside the window on this episode, which I don't think we will. Somehow, shockingly, despite the fact that apparently there's all sorts of scary things around our area, we're somewhere in a pocket that's not getting much more than just, yeah, that's rain.
And the both of us, we're from Texas. We've lived there most of our lives. So we're used to rain that looks like this, which we just call rain.
I don't want to downplay it, because there are parts of Los Angeles that are like, oh wow, this intersection is not built for draining water, and nobody should be driving through this.
But fair.
But if we're just sitting here in our apartment, we're just looking out the window and eating chips and yep, just gonna ride this sucker out. We are okay right here. And then an earthquake happened. I got an alert on my phone.
We both did.
And I was like, excuse me? Earthquake now? And we're looking around.
And it's really like, earthquake, take cover. And we're like, okay, what's happening? And we look to our left, we look to our right, and we notice the blinds are kind of swaying.
And that was it. We really didn't feel it, but clearly something in the house felt it. The blinds were swaying back and forth, and the cats were kind of just sleeping through it. I was watching them, lying there in front of the window where the blinds were swaying, and that was all the motion there was in the whole house. There wasn't even stuff falling over. It was just the blinds, and then the blinds stopped rocking. And I was like, oh, I guess that was it. Because the epicenter of this earthquake was 50 miles away. So.
And apparently it was a 5-point something, so
wherever the epicenter was bad.
Noticeable, for sure.
Very noticeable, but I don't know. Somehow, we're ending up extremely lucky during hurricane season.
Yes, which will last all of 2 days. And I imagine next year, it'll happen again, but longer. So it's kind of like, the weekend of Black Friday going into Cyber Monday.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like that. Just every year it gets longer. Thanks, global warming.
I don't know. I just felt like it needed some sort of a jingle to go with it. I don't know why I picked that Reading Rainbow, but don't take my word for it noise. But
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, I'm saying all that is happening while Christmas is happening during this show that we are watching.
But something we found out about that'll happen before Christmas is at some point in November, we're going to head out to the Shinjuku area, and we looked it up because we were talking in the last episode about the giant Ryo statue that's going to be there in the Shinjuku Tourism Building, and we were checking, is it going to be there when we get there? Is it going to be there?
Well, we just happened to stumble across a news article that said, this Ryo statue is there, and he's gonna be there all the way to the end of the year. Oh, great. Perfect. Lines up with our travel timing perfectly.
So, we gonna get a picture with Mr. Saiba.
Yeah, here's hoping. And we'll share that with you guys. Pretend you were there with us.
It's gonna be great.
Still Christmas in this anime show.
Yes, and to get into that episode, this is a part 2 of part 1, which means we gotta do a recap. So, to backtrack from last week, what we're dealing with is a greedy land guy who apparently, as we're gonna find out this week, is really an asshole.
It's a lot worse than you might have thought the first time. And it was already bad.
But what he's doing is he's trying to evict a bunch of orphans out of this house, and he's got some sort of a shady backdoor deal with the guy who runs the orphanage, and Kaori really cares about this orphanage, and she really cares about these kids. Ryo hasn't seen the kids, so he doesn't care about these kids.
He cares about kids as soon as he sees them, but as of yet, he has not seen the kids.
He just cares about Mokkori Christmas and nothing else.
But Mokkori Christmas isn't going well for him anyway, so what are you gonna do? So anyway, Kaori stole a bunch of stuff from the shady landowner guy, and now the shady landowner guy is sending lawyers and henchmen out to go get the stuff that Kaori stole, but Kaori Kaori doesn't even know everything that she stole, and she doesn't even know what it is from all the stuff that she stole that they actually want. Also, by the way, a child has now been kidnapped so that they can get back the thing that Kaori stole that she doesn't know what it is that she stole. We gotta go save this kid.
So picking up right from the end of the last episode, we see that Kaori and Ryo have been informed by one of the other kids there at the orphanage that the little girl Keiko has been kidnapped by asshole lawyer and the henchman. So now they've got to go back and check on the other kids. So they go back into Kusunoki house and they see just how much these guys just wrecked everything. And they're like, oh damn.
Stuff is bad.
We probably should have helped these kids.
I mean, Kaori was trying. Ryo just got here.
And so again, the proprietor of this place, Mr. Hitoyoshi, is asking Kaori, what did you do? Look, I got a call from the assholes. They need this black pocketbook that apparently you stole and didn't notice. Please tell me you have the black pocketbook.
And Kaori's just like, I do not know what you're talking about. A black pocketbook was not on my mind. I don't remember seeing it. I'm gonna go through all the stuff that I took right now. No papers, more papers. No sir, no black pocketbook. I'm sorry, man.
Well, then we're not gonna get Keiko back.
And now Kaori's feeling real bad, like, oh man, this is my fault, isn't it?
But then she kind of like 180s on it of feeling sorry for herself to, well, I guess we gotta go in there blasting.
But the guy's like, no, don't do that. Like, haven't you done enough already? And one of the other girls, the orphan girls, is like, no, Mr. Teacher guy, man.
Hitoyoshi.
Hitoyoshi person. She's been trying to help us really, really hard. You gotta let her do this. And
Kaori did nothing wrong.
But Kaori still feels like she did something wrong, and so she runs away, and she's like, I'm sorry, this is all my fault.
Ryo sees Kaori run off, and he's like, great, where's she running off to now? She's probably gonna get into more trouble. And as he's about to go chasing after her, he runs into Sayako, who's just waiting there on the side like, hey, we need to take a ride.
Well, Ryo's never not down for a ride with Sayako.
But in the meantime, that little girl who is named Yuriko seems to know something that she hasn't told the other adults yet. So she goes up to this other little kid named Kenta, and you can tell he's Kenta because he has the shirt with a K on it.
He's the kid who in the last episode was like drawing all over all this legal shit that Kaori brought back.
Isn't he also the kid who said penis?
He is
Okay.
The same little kid making stupid little children mistakes.
So Yuriko goes up to Kenta and she's like, hey, I know you're faking. You know where the pocketbook is.
And he's like, no, I don't. Shut up.
No, you have it.
Nuh-uh. But Kaori is like around the corner and she's like, sorry, buddy, I heard you. And he really doesn't like that, so he just runs away. And so now Kaori and the other little girl have to chase this kid around the yard, trying to get him to talk about the pocketbook. Meanwhile, inside,
Hitoyoshi's got a call again from asshole lawyer, and asshole lawyer's like, where the hell's the pocketbook?
I do not have it.
Don't lie to me, where's the pocketbook?
I do not have it. And he's like, okay, well, I just can't make any promises about the safety of this girl.
You have 1 hour. Click.
And that seems bad.
And so, finally, I guess Kaori got some headway with the kid. She marches Yuriko and Kenta into Hitoyoshi's office, and she's like, hey, Kenta's got something for you here. And of course, he's got the notebook there in his hand that they're looking for.
That's it. That's the one.
And so Hitoyoshi, like, gets down on all fours, like, oh my god, Kenta, thank you so much. Please give me that right now so I can go save Keiko. And Kenta, like, he is a little kid and he's stubborn, but what I didn't expect him to do was just drag Hitoyoshi's ass right here.
The kid is just kind of like, no, I'm not gonna give this to you.
Why not?
You kind of just keep letting your ass get handed to you by these guys. You're kind of a loser.
You kind of a weak-ass bitch. I'm not gonna lie. You told us not to be weak-ass bitches. Why you being a weak-ass bitch? And he's like, oh, he's right. I have been a weak-ass bitch. And then Kaori has to ask him, Mr. Hitoyoshi, why are you being a weak-ass bitch?
Why don't you give me the extensive backstory? Because this is extensive backstory. I just need to make you aware because he's like, well, it all started 40 years ago. Oh my god.
Hold that thought. We gotta go over to Psycho's car right now.
Where she's also saying to Ryo, like, I'm skipping ahead. So it all started 40 years ago. But no, she's in the car with Ryo and she's like, yeah, I still gotta tell you about this thing that's going on. And Ryo's like, at a hotel? She's like, no. This time she's just outright saying no. She's not like playing around with him going, oh, maybe I'll give you this info. Let me just make sure I've washed my hair first.
And he's being as pushy as he normally is, like, hey, like, if you're gonna give me info, we can trade that for a hotel room.
No, we cannot. She's got like a button in her car.
In this Porsche that she drives, this red Porsche.
That leans the seat back and handcuffs his wrists to the seat and puts a cuff around his neck against the headrest?
Like, we're talking Dr. Claw, Inspector Gadget style restraints here for Rio. And he's like, what the hell is this? And she's like, well, Rio, I kind of have a favor to ask you. And he's like, well, this is the way you're gonna ask me?
I mean, she is often asking for favors, but at least this time, she's not teasing him. She's just telling him, look, man, this is what it is. We're not gonna play around and pretend that we're gonna exchange this for sex, okay? That's not happening this time.
Okay, well, if we're not doing that, can you at least tell me one thing?
Okay, what?
Can you tell me the backstory that's going on the other side of town right now?
Okay, so 40 years ago, and we don't actually hear her tell the story, but we assume she has told literally the exact same story to Rio that is about to be told to Kaori and all the children. So it was 40 years ago.
So yeah, Hitoyoshi goes into this real long backstory about war crimes. We didn't know it was going to be like this. Well, really, they're post-war
They're post-war crimes because World War II has just ended. Oh my god, World War II. All right.
And so it turns out that during the war, Hitoyoshi had a job as a bomb maker.
Serving his country, making bombs.
But he saw the devastation. Nobody had homes or food, and there's all these orphan kids running the streets. And he has a soft spot for him. He's like, you know what? I can't walk around and do nothing. I'm gonna start an orphanage.
But starting an orphanage takes money. How am I gonna get money? Well, he met a guy.
And that would be Okouchi, the asshole.
Yeah, Mr. Penis. He met Mr. Penis, who was like, well, we need a guy who knows how to do what you do to make bombs. And he told me, the bombs were for clearing these ships.
Yeah, he fed him this story that, all right, you're a bomb maker. Well, it turns out the ports that we're trying to bring ships into, they're all blocked up with wreckage from the war. So if you can make us some bombs, we clear out all that wreckage and you'll really be helping people out.
And the guy's like, well, actually, that doesn't sound so bad. I'll give you my talents. That doesn't sound like a problem. So here he goes making a bunch of bombs, and he gives them over to Mr. Penis, and Mr. Penis doesn't tell the guy.
Oh, we're actually using this for piracy. We're gonna blow up a bunch of cargo ships. We're gonna
steal their cargo.
We're gonna steal their cargo, sell it on the black market. I'm gonna get rich, and guess what? I just implicated you in a criminal scheme. Good job, partner.
Now for 40 years, this man has not been able to tell anybody any of this. Meanwhile, he's trying to take care of children, which is the thing he really cares about. But at the same time, he's not going to be able to take care of children if people know that he made bombs that ended up blowing up ships in a piracy scheme.
What's really funny about this is that in the flashback, when he gets told, oh yeah, you're helping me out in this piracy scheme, and you're also helping me blow things up illegally, there's this sound effect that plays in the background that I'm surprised you caught and I didn't, of when the realization comes in, there's this very noticeable which would come from early Showa era Ultraman series.
It's like 1966 original Ultraman specifically.
Yeah, it's the sound that Ultraman would normally make when he's fighting a monster.
It's one of his generic, he goes through a series of grunts that they recorded and they frequently reused, and you'd hear it pretty much every episode, and I was like, what is Ultraman doing grunting in the background of this flashback in my 1988 anime?
So what happens is he tells him, ha, you're helping me with a piracy scheme, and then you see him holding his heart oh my god, I just got horrible news, and then you hear the sound effect oh man,
that sounds bad, actually.
That hurt Ultraman. So yeah, this guy's been carrying the weight of post-war crimes for 40 years now. And that's rough.
That is rough.
And so dude's like, yeah, not only have I been carrying this around for 40 years, you were asking me before, well, how did Okouchi even get the certificate of ownership from me? Well, it turns out I had to ask him for more money a couple of years back, and I gave up the certificate, and he told me, oh, don't worry about it. I'm gonna protect my friend.
Well, that didn't happen,
That's a damn lie. So yeah, he just kind of sold his soul out to this guy over and over again over the course of years, decades even. And so Kaori's telling him, look, I get it, your heart's kind of in the right place, but it's been 40 years, man. You kind of paid your debt.
And you're taking care of children. If anything were to happen to you, nobody's taking care of these children. So I think maybe we should just figure this out, because the other guy is clearly the bigger asshole here.
And you're actually trying to focus on the kids. Maybe you should refocus on the kids. How about that?
And then he kind of breaks down like, oh no, I should focus on the kids. And finally, Kenta, like, gives up the book that he's been holding. I don't even necessarily know that he's able to comprehend this entire conversation that has happened around him. He's just like, well, this sounded big and important. I guess here you go.
Well, because Kenta couldn't be more than, what, 6 at best?
At best, yeah.
Like, how old are you before you start comprehending post-war crimes?
I don't know.
And implications of piracy and explosions and all this other stuff that could feasibly get you arrested.
I don't know. I'm going to assume that he has not grown up around any of that imagery. He's actually had it pretty okay for an orphan.
And, you know, being a pretty okay orphan, Kenta's like, all right, here you go. You can have the book. And so dude's like, oh my god, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And he starts flipping through it to make sure everything's there. And then he realizes this isn't exactly the book he's looking for. It's another book that Kaori also grabbed by accident. This is a whole nother second ledger for all of his shady dealings.
Meaning, there's more crimes in this book. Kaori's saying, oh, I had heard that there were rumors of, like, tax evasion and other bribes and shit.
Like, isn't it terrible when somebody has it uncovered that they've been trying to dodge taxes and hide all this money for years, and then all that information comes to light?
Yeah, I bet that would be really, really uncomfortable for somebody.
Yeah, sucks to be him.
So apparently this is really bad. It's no wonder they want this book too.
So the action now goes over to the warehouse where we see that Okouchi himself is now pulling up. The lawyer greets him outside and they discuss just how much worse their plan is going to be. Not that it's a bad plan, just that they're going to really, really be assholes. So the agreement that they've made is that Okouchi was to be present at this handover so that Hitoyoshi could secure that Keiko would be let go without harm. He just wanted to make sure he was there as kind of leverage.
So by the way, this is happening down at some like warehouses.
We assume it's by the docks again.
There's always some warehouses.
If it's not warehouses, it's docks.
But there's always warehouses by the docks.
Yes, that is true. And so Okouchi is going over it with the lawyer, who we're going to find out later had a name this whole time. And they don't bother to say it till like the end of this episode.
Like 75% of the way through 2 episodes, he gets a name.
We'll just say it now. His name's Kazuma. So he tells Kazuma, hey, so that's how they think this is going to go down. What's really going to go down? And he's like, oh, well, we've got this all set up. While he's out here doing the trade and thinking he's winning, we're sending a bulldozer over to the orphanage anyway.
Got him.
These guys are such jerks.
Yeah. So anyway, Kaori is pulling up in the Panda in her car. She's also...
In the Fiat.
She's also taking Hitoyoshi with her so that they can do this exchange.
And we know she's wearing a trench coat for some weird reason.
Oh, we know she's got stuff in that trench coat. We just don't know what the stuff is just yet. So she's screaming into the warehouse where Keiko's all tied up. Like, okay, we got your stupid book. Let the kid go. And everybody comes outside. There's a bunch of dudes and the child.
Well, no, the child's not outside. They're holding her back. Hitoyoshi is asking, all right, we're trying to do this all nice and proper. We'll give you the book. Just give us Keiko first.
No, give us the book first. No, give us Keiko first. And so he's like, oh, we are not doing this. Done.
And the lawyer pulls a gun on Hitoyoshi like, we say what goes first. Give us the damn book. And so, you know, he's at gunpoint. They don't really have much option, so he hands over the book.
So this is bad. And so Kaori's like, okay, we gave you the exchange, so time to finish your end of the deal. And
give us like, Keiko.
Okay, well, don't worry. You're gonna see her soon. In hell! And then 10 guys come out with guns.
And they surround him.
Because of course they do.
And they're like, hey, so you guys thought we were gonna play fair? Sucks to be you. We're just gonna kill all of you. Right now.
Right now.
And you would think you would just go ahead and pull the trigger, right? I guess this is one of those old school type of standoffs where they're waiting for Okouchi to give the okay to go ahead and start shooting, right? And in these 2 seconds where they don't start shooting, this can goes flying through the air and like dings itself off both Kazuma and Okouchi's head.
Just to distract him, but I noticed, hey Josh.
What?
Stop the video. Go back to that can.
Why? It's just a can.
There's writing on that can.
Oh my god.
What is the writing on the can?
Alright, enhance.
You're never gonna believe this shit. Okay, there's a grand total of 3 frames where it is at all noticeable. And mind you, 3 frames, that is just a fraction of a second, okay? It is a can of Treetop apple juice with the logo that is extremely specific, okay? It's got that tilted font. It looks just like it always has for decades.
Or especially like it did back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Because it had one of those pull tabs that, like, you would peel, like, you'd pull the ring up and peel the whole thing back and off.
And it'd be this little teardrop opening that you drank out of.
Yeah.
Like, I remember getting those in, like, kindergarten.
And I'm sitting here thinking, you know, they didn't have to do this. They didn't have to put this detail on this can that you are never going to see on broadcast television.
Like, nobody in 1988 was gonna catch that.
A guy with a VCR might.
If he got lucky.
Yeah.
But even then, who's gonna catch that and bother to look for it back then?
You really did not need to add that detail. We would have known, oh, it's a can, and you hear it clunk on the ground and the clunk, 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 clunk of the sound of a can rattling on the ground.
And
right?
most other productions, they would just do, you know, your generic cola can, right?
Right.
But no, they specifically were like, no, we want it to be Treetop apple juice subliminal advertising here in City Hunter.
I don't even know, like, is this advertising, or were they just like, this is the closest can of something I have to me right now, and this is what I'm using as my reference material?
You know what, it could be that. I didn't even think about
I
that.
think it might just be that, honestly. And you could just get away with that shit at the time, too. In the 80s, it was just so much easier to insert whatever you felt like without getting permission. And now they've, like, really cracked down on that. You can't hardly get away with that anymore now, which is why you have knockoff Whack Donalds all over the place in anime these days that you didn't used to have.
But in any case, what we see has happened is that Ryo has chucked the can at their heads, and Ryo has done the right thing and already freed Keiko. So he's got her with her on his shoulder, and he's like, hey guys, I'm over here. You got two choices. You can either leave now, you can have the pocketbook, you can just go, or if you stick around, I'm gonna send your asses to hell.
Yeah, totally different people are going to hell than the people you have decided you wanted to go to hell. This is now an entirely new scenario.
Where you go to hell. You go to hell and you die. And so they're like, oh, hey, Kazuma, you hear that? Because this is where the name finally comes up.
Why are we bothering to name this lawyer at this point? Why do we do this?
I feel like it's the same every time they do it, where they realize after 1 2/3 episodes, they're like, oh crap, we forgot to name this guy. He has lines.
Why do they keep doing this?
That's just the way it ran, probably, there at the studio. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Okuichi's like, oh, I guess you guys got us over a barrel, but here's something you need to consider. You might have stopped it right now, you know, us with the little girl. Okay, fine, we'll let you have that. But what if you don't have a house to go back to? How about that?
What do you mean? Oh, well, we already had this all planned out. You guys would be here, and then no one would be at the orphanage when we bulldoze the place down. Haha, sucks to be you. But, you know, we might consider giving you money to rebuild an entire orphanage.
With interest. And it's right here that Kaori has had enough.
There's this really interesting animation that happens here because she's so angry.
Like, she starts yelling.
It appears to be, you know, that reused Ryo animation that they've used a few times now. The camera kind of goes around him in a circle and ends with him all fired up, and there's this blazing, burning inferno behind him.
Yeah, the explosion behind him, usually it's for, like, a Mokkori thing. But it's Kaori this time.
And it looks to me like it's basically the exact same animation, and they just kind of used the Ryo animation from earlier as reference.
Like a template.
Like a template to get Kaori to do the same thing, because that background looks eerily, suspiciously similar.
Yeah, it looks pretty identical. And so Kaori's over here, like, yelling at the top of her lungs, like, why, you little... And then Ryo's like, oh shit. And he grabs Keiko, and they go around the corner to duck out of the way. And it's this super smooth animation.
It really looks like they had to have used reference video for this. So I don't know if it was necessarily rotoscoped, but certainly referenced from something, because the nature of the way, two things, like one, Ryo's clothes, the way that they move as he runs around and then ducks behind this corner into this warehouse, the way he has lifted Keiko, this little child, up to carry her to safety, and the way, like, her legs kind of swing around has very realistic gravity and motion.
It's the momentum on Keiko, and the way, like, her center of gravity is where it would be if you're, like, swinging a child around.
Yeah.
And placing her down out of the way. Like, it looked like it would in real life. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm kind of with you on that's probably, at least they had some sort of reference material that they were looking at, like old school Disney style, to be like, okay, this is what it's got to look like when he saves this kid.
Yeah, it's just interesting that this was maybe a grand total of 5 seconds. That this really fluid, really realistic looking action was performed on screen here. I thought that was really interesting.
So that's the first impressive thing, is that, you know, Ryo's doing this animation here. The second most impressive thing is Kaori laying the groundwork for the Yakuza series over here.
Ripping her entire trench coat off in this one big ol' swing, and the camera, like, follows the trench coat. And then camera cuts back to her, and she's just covered head to toe in just military shit. She's in these army fatigues, like the... Why am I blanking on... You go into the forest and they make you invisible.
The word you're looking for is camouflage, Caitlin.
Yes, camouflage. Camouflage pants, army boots, and she's just strapped down with guns and guns and guns and grenades and RPGs and just everything. Just everything's gonna blow up. Everything's gonna go boom.
It's this holiday's hottest new action figure, Commando Kaori.
Which she definitely has gotten all of this action off of Umibozu at some point in the past.
Well, she's learned how to do this from him, clearly.
For certain.
Because she just starts chucking grenades, and these aren't like pineapple grenades, these are like the bowling pin style grenades, like the long ones that they used to use in the older wars.
They've got a handle that you just chuck it, you throw it from the handle.
If you know the grenade style that they used in Wonder Woman, it's those kind of grenades.
Definitely leftover war grenades.
Yes, war surplus. Like, I don't know whose pantry she raided. Maybe Umibozu carries those. I'm pretty sure Ryo doesn't. And she's just wrecking shit.
Everything's blowing up. Dudes are going down. There's just so many explosions.
She's setting off the RPG. She's got a chain gun from nowhere.
All these came from her trench coat, Josh. She was hiding all of it in the trench coat.
And she's able to, like, disarm one guy. Like, he drops his AK. He tries to pick it up.
But Ryo's like, gun to the back of this guy's head.
And he's like, no, let her cook. And he's like, oh yeah, I love cooking. Yeah, let her cook, let her cook. And she's like lobbing grenades. Like, I'm trying to think of anything else that you would spam grenades like this in some other game.
You know what? Metal Slug, and specifically Metal Slug 3.
Yeah, she's lobbing, like, she's acting like she's playing out Metal Slug here at the warehouse district.
It's pretty crazy, and it's looking a lot like kind of the cinematography of Tokusatsu of that era, where, like, the camera keeps cutting back to her and kind of reusing the footage in quick, rapid succession.
Like it's on a loop.
To sort of impress upon you, this is really high action. We're just doing crazy editing to make it look like higher action than what we filmed.
Like, what would happen in those older action shows is they would do this, like, triple loop of, like, a character kicking, and before they finish the kick, they'll start the loop over, and then on the third time, the kick will complete, just to, like, impress, oh, this is a high-powered attack, and she's doing that with the grenades, like, she's triple pulling back to throw them, like, rearing her arm back.
But then you cut to see, like, 6 grenades are flying in the air at the same time. That's how fast she's whipping them out. Pa, 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 pa.
And it's like, okay, is she only aiming to maim? Is she just trying to distract? No, this is demolition.
Oh yeah, these warehouses are gone. I don't know where Ryo hid with this child because he was hiding in a warehouse, but at some point they had to have run away because those warehouses are gone.
Yeah, Ryo probably had to GTFO because there is nothing left. Nothing is left standing. I'm surprised nobody died.
It's shocking. Now, there's still 2 dudes left, and it's the lawyer and...
Okouchi.
Yeah, Mr. Penis. They have to go and get in the car and try and run away, and the car, of course, it's a Benz because...
It's always a Benz!
Well, it's because it's only rich people with lots of money have a Benz. It's a status symbol, certainly in Japan, too. Like, only so many people have cars, and when your car is a Western car, an import car, like a Benz, you're really flaunting it when you're buying a Benz in Japan. Are you kidding me?
So yeah, they're trying to flee the scene. The thing thing they don't realize, though, is Ryo still hasn't done anything cool yet.
But he's about to do that thing that he's been known to do since episode 1, which is shoot out one single tire.
And cause a major crash. And so he takes out the backside passenger side tire, and they go skidding out. They completely lose the tire. They're on a rim back there. They kind of skid out and crash right into a pole. And we notice, one, they're not wearing any seatbelts. Like, Okuuchi's just kind of sitting smack in the middle of the back seat.
And he most certainly does not have the lap band on.
And Kazuma's in the front. He didn't bother putting his seatbelt on. They're just trying to get out of there.
They were just trying to leave, yeah.
And so it's a pretty, for like as many frames as it took, I think it counted like 48 frames that this crash happens over. It looks pretty bad.
It does look like it actually carries real weight.
And real force.
That's real good animation that makes you feel like, man, that was a crazy, gnarly accident. And you would think one of them went through the windshield. And somehow they did not.
Well,
that did not happen.
For whatever reason, Okuuchi is fine.
He stumbles out of the back, but the driver, the lawyer, his leg is up in the air. So he's probably not okay.
I think he died in the crash.
You think he died?
I think he died. Like, you look at the force of that crash, there was no seatbelt on. They were going pretty fast with the momentum that was conveyed in the animation.
What do you think, at least 40?
At 50, I think.
You think 50?
At least 50. I'm pretty sure that dude's dead. If not, he's in a coma.
Well, he needs an ambulance, for sure.
Well, there's some kind of siren coming towards us right now. It's the police.
Woo! Hey, Sayako's back. Because guess what? She's been watching what Mr. Penis has been doing for a long time.
And this has all been a case she's been working.
Of course it, and we knew that because last episode she was sitting outside his house like a friggin' creep. But I mean,
it's not a creep. She's on a stakeout.
She's the police. I know. It's fine. She's like, great. Thanks to Kaori's efforts doing a robbery she probably shouldn't have done, she actually really helped me out here because now we're able to see this book. I don't know how. That wasn't discussed, the exchange of this book, but I guess we have it now because we're on the scene where the book was. And now we can arrest him, and we got proof of all of his crimes. Meanwhile, the guy who actually runs the orphanage, Hitoyoshi, is feeling real guilty about his post-war crimes, and he's like, oh, please arrest me. I've done so much bad shit. Just take me away.
But Saiko's like, oh, I'm sorry, sir. I'm just a regular old detective. I couldn't possibly do anything that the statute of limitations would have already run out on, and that was 40 years ago.
Sorry, dude, you just have to live with guilt. I mean,
like, that's how I took it, because you want to say it as, oh, he can have a clear conscience now. No, that means you gotta live with it. You gonna carry that weight.
But now they realize, oh crap, there's still a problem. Is there even an orphanage to return to? And so they all get in the car.
Everybody in the Fiat.
Including Ryo? Like, how did he get down there?
I mean, he had time. Remember, we've been discussing over the last several episodes how weirdly Ryo can get from place to place. Like, he can get from
without a car. He didn't drive the Mini. He just showed up at the docks.
And the Mini's been gone. That's the thing, too.
Have we still not seen a replacement Mini
we haven't.
Since the car ended up in the ocean?
We haven't.
We really haven't? Oh my god.
Like, this is the longest he's gone without a car.
How did he get to the warehouses, Josh?
Public transportation.
Public transportation just takes you right up to these warehouses?
He probably knows a guy in the cab service.
Well, that could be. He might have taken a cab. That's true. He could have done that. Anyway, so they all get in the Panda, and Kaori, like...
She's hauling
ass. She's a bat out of hell. They drive all the way back to the gate of the orphanage, and she, like, peels out, drifts, and faces the car in the opposite direction before parking it on the street. And they all jump out of the car like, oh my god, is it still there? Oh, no.
They're too late.
It is not there. There are bulldozers there, and it has been bulldozed.
And somehow the kids are all fine.
I guess they all got out. Maybe they checked for people in the building before they bulldozed it.
So here's my thing, though. If Hitoyoshi went to the drop-off point with Kaori in the Fiat in the first place, and then Ryo ended up there, who the hell was watching the kids? The 6 other kids?
They were watching each other. They were fine.
Kaylin, like, the oldest one might be 6.
I know.
It's Christmas, Kaylin. Who left the orphans alone? Yeah. Hitoyoshi's gonna be hearing from Child Protective Services over this.
Josh, Japan doesn't care about children.
Well, damn. This is a dark episode all of a sudden.
I mean, okay, that's not totally true, but if I'm to be real frank here, they're just gonna keep letting this guy take care of orphans. Even though he made a bunch of bombs, and he got into some dealings with a pirate, and left the children alone on Christmas Eve.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised when the last orphanage we found out about, they were left with cocaine.
With cocaine.
So I guess, yeah.
From an ex-cop.
Alright, so screw me, alright? Sorry that I assumed that the kids would be taken care of.
No, not in this universe, no.
So they're all there, all the kids are just looking at the wreckage like, yep, that used to be our house, that used to be my room over there. And like, I don't even know if they got their stuff out or anything. Like, we assume it's all gone.
Yeah.
The big difference now is that, Hitoyoshi, of course, has been around the kids. Kaori's been around these kids. The only person who hadn't been around the kids yet is Ryo. And now he sees them all here, looking all sad and wondering how Christmas is gonna go.
And Kaori's like, hey Ryo, can we throw a party for these kids? And Ryo's realizing, my Mokkori party wasn't happening anyway. None of these women want to see my penis for some reason. Fine, let's have a party for these children. But also, like, aren't they having a discussion about, oh man, I sure hope we can scrounge up a place to live? And like, that discussion doesn't ever really manifest into anything? Where do they go after this?
Let's not think about that right now. Let's focus on the party.
No, wait a minute.
So
we're
back at the
children
apartment.
Live after this?
We'll ask after the credits. So we head back to Kaori and Ryo's apartment, and we assume the next day. Wait, that's a problem anyway, because Kaori says, can we have the party tomorrow? Where did they spend the night? Wait, I can't fast forward, because now we do have to think about this right now.
So the kids, I assume staying there for one night maybe isn't a problem. But where do they live after that?
Wait, are you saying that they stayed the night over at Kaori and Ryo's apartment?
They have a whole building.
They do have a whole... Well, we don't know what's on the other floors, though.
Nobody else lives in that building, Josh.
But we don't know if they're, like, fake floors. Like, we just don't know, is what I'm saying.
We know there's at least one other room that Kaori's got.
Well, yeah, I guess it's not that hard to imagine them splitting up 7 kids and 1 adult. Well, wait, does Hitoyoshi live on the grounds or no?
Well, wouldn't that be really stupid if an adult did not stay with the children?
You're right.
Mind you, Hitoyoshi is not very good at this. So it could be he doesn't actually live with the children at the orphanage. I don't know, Josh.
Wait, does that mean they also demolished the temple that was at the orphanage?
There was an entire temple there too, wasn't there?
Yeah.
That's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, these guys were real assholes.
Wow, okay.
Okay, so for the time being, we can assume either Kaori and Ryo put them up in either one of the floors or one of the extra rooms they have at Ryo's apartment building.
For Christmas, okay, alright, that's fine.
Or I could only assume they asked Sayako for some help housing them for the interim.
We're just making that shit up, though.
I have to, otherwise I won't feel good about this. Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, it's the next day and it's Christmas.
Christmas party, alright.
And it's a whole montage of the kids having fun, they're all getting presents.
There's a Merry Christmas cake. Well, it's Merry Xmas. Also, Mary is spelled like a person's name. M-A-R-R-Y.
Well, no, Mary like you're getting married.
Well, yeah, it's two R's, so it's like you're getting married, not like a person's name, because a person's name would only be one R.
Yes.
So, we're going to get married to
Christmas.
To Xmas.
Married to Xmas, coming out this winter on the Hallmark Channel.
Except the Hallmark Channel would never abbreviate it to Xmas.
No, they would not. And so Kaori and Ryo are there playing with the kids. They're playing Twister. It looks like there's a copy of Othello, the board game.
I don't know, Japan really likes Othello. I don't know. I see it a lot. I saw Othello for the DS. Okay? Look, Japan likes Othello.
Man, Japan must have gotten beaten up a lot as a kid.
No. Maybe you need to read up on some history. The answer is yes.
I didn't mean it like that. And so as they're sitting down for cake, Ryo's like, oh, you kids all want this cake? Nah, sorry, I get the sponge cake. And he gets hit with a hammer. But here's the thing about it. So you know how last episode we're talking about this, and Kaori is like gripping for a hammer that has yet to form around her hands.
Form in her hands. This
time, we see the speed lines, and it's only like a couple of frames, like maybe 4 frames, of the speed lines forming above Ryo's head. Kaori's not even trying to hold it.
She's not moving. So what has happened is Kaori has manifested a hammer with her mind.
Mind.
Not even gripping it, it just manifests, it shows up, and it hits Ryo without her ever needing to touch touch it.
She's a magician. Also, we see that it's kind of clipping through the table, kind of stupid.
Yeah, you can see where the animators tried to cut to put it behind the table, but they forgot to also put it behind, like, this tea kettle pot thing that is on the table, so tiny little animation error, but it's so small, like, if we didn't point it out, you would have never noticed it. I would have never noticed it had we not stopped to verify that Kaori just manifested a hammer with her mind. I would have never noticed.
And you see all the kids being happy and enjoying Christmas. It's a nice respite from the terrible things that just happened yesterday. And Hitoyoshi goes up to Kaori and says, hey, sorry about everything that I caused with all of this. Thank you for doing all this for the kids.
Kaori's like, it's cool. Me and Ryo, we just want to see the kids smile. And she's involving Ryo in it because, truth be told, when Ryo sees kids and sees that they need something that they don't have, when push comes to shove, he does eventually take action for the sake of kids.
He does have a soft spot for it, and her talking about Ryo like that he does have that soft spot, you can see they draw her eyes very 80s pretty.
Yeah.
And so now that the party's basically over, we assume, we head up to the roof of the apartment, where we see the sign off in the corner, again, spelled incorrectly, Merry Christmas.
We're going to get married to Xmas.
And also, New Year's is coming.
With 2 M's, calming.
And so up on the roof, Kaori and Ryo are there looking out over the city, and Kaori tells Ryo, hey, so Saiko told me a little bit about what happened during all this, and she said you were holding back so you could watch me actually do stuff for myself, and I'm sorry I screwed up a lot of it.
And Ryo's actually giving her some very nice words here, like, no, actually, I've been thinking you actually really are the best partner for me. And it's like, wow, this is actually super important, because, one, the best partner?
The best.
Like, out of everybody, because he's had at least 3 of them.
That we know of.
Yeah, we know of her brother, we know of, not Mick Angel, because Mick Angel was his name in the manga. You know,
look it up real quick?
Anime guy who becomes Mick Angel.
Oh, Robert.
It's Robert. So it was Makimura, Kaori's brother, Robert, and we're also aware of a lady that will show up later
yeah.
that we have not seen in this series yet. But Kaori is the best of all of those? The best.
Like, I'm not gonna mince words here. I'm gonna say it. There's a difference here, because those were all partners. This is the only one that Ryo's in love with.
Oh.
That's what it is.
And, like, he looking at her different.
He is. Like, he's looking directly at her. Like, he's not, like, looking off stage left while he's saying this. Like, he makes sure to look directly at her and say, you are the best partner I've ever had.
And then she's looking back at him like, oh my god, did he just say that? And then he gets, like, embarrassed, and he's got to look away at something else that's happening. Look!
It's
in the
snowing.
Sky, there is snow. In the sky, it sure is cold. Yeah.
It's cold at Christmas. Ah, shit. I'm sorry, Kaori. In all this that we've been dealing with the kids and the orphanage, I just completely, honestly forgot to get you a Christmas present.
And
I'm
actually,
sorry.
he looks genuinely ashamed and feels bad about not having bought her a Christmas present. Which,
like, he owes her a Turbo Man.
like, previous iterations of Ryo would not feel bad about not getting her something. But
or wouldn't care.
He just would kind of blow it off like, we'll figure this out later or something, I guess. But now he clearly cares. He looks genuinely kind of ashamed and embarrassed about it. But internally, Kaori is forgiving him. She leans against his arm, she holds his arm, and she's internally saying, no, the things that you just said to me just now about being your best partner, that was the best present you could have given to me. She doesn't say it out loud, but you know, you can tell from her movement, from leaning in, like she's just
the look on her face.
She's just accepting him, and he's not pushing her away or anything.
No.
He's allowing her to lean in on him.
And this is like a really sweet moment for them. And had this been last week's episode, it would have kind of ruined the mood if we had heard Supergirl start playing as all this was happening. But last week was the last time we ever hear Supergirl as an ending thing, so now we switched over to our new ending theme as the episode closes out, and it's TM Network's Still Love Her.
And again, I actually really, really like this ending. And the first time we watched this, I thought, oh, isn't that nice? They've got a Christmas song, because the song takes place during December September during winter, and then it really confused me when, for the rest of the season, that's what the ending theme
like
is.
It straight up took us like 3 or 4 episodes to realize, oh, this is the new ending.
Yeah, I really thought it was just, oh, it's the Christmas special.
On a very special episode of City Hunter. And, this is the end of the episode, but as we're going into this credit sequence with the new ending, we see that now it's not like animated necessarily. We have still shots of Kaori and Ryo set to the backdrop of actual live action footage in and around Shinjuku.
If you watch the more recent Shinjuku Private Eyes film that came out in like 2019,
yeah,
during the closing credits of that film, they somewhat recreate that as well. They film around Shinjuku around the year 2018, 2019, and also redraw some of these still images that they were using during this credit sequence, which I think is a super cool touch for them to have done in that movie. I don't know, I think it's actually a really memorable ending.
Well, yeah, definitely visually, because, it's for sure distinct from the other ones because of the live action thing, but also because more so, I think, than the other endings, we see that there's now this more warm portrayal of the relationship between Kaori and Ryo. Like, it ends on this slightly animated still shot of them, like, holding each other like they're a couple.
That is also a recreation directly from the manga, too. That is super important. You start to get this sense through this ending theme that their relationship has just gotten a lot closer.
And that's the way it's going to go, starting from the end of this episode on for at least the next 10 episodes.
We're having to switch discs now. The next episode is put onto Discotek's Part 2 box of City Hunter 2.
It was nice that when we got that in the mail, like we literally just got it in the mail this week, and I tell Kaylin, hey Kaylin, look what came in the mail. City Hunter 2! 2! But yes, now we're going into all of this other stuff. First off, I can't say this is the episode where Ryo saved Christmas, because technically it's just a brief respite from the fact that these kids are homeless now.
We do not know where these children go.
These kids are technically homeless.
And we will never learn about them ever again. We don't know where they went.
Maybe they got sent to the Himawari Academy of Truculence.
This is a very deep inside joke that there's no possible way we are going to explain to people. I don't even know why you said it. I know that the other orphanage was called Himawari, but
it's an inside joke between us. It's just gonna be something real weird you guys here listening to this, but you know what? Damn it, I think it's funny.
Ask us on social media what we mean by truculence, I guess.
But this is a nice episode. The amount of assault that Ryo attempts is very little, only with Sayako in the car, and then he gets immediately restrained.
Does he even touch her? Does he even manage to touch?
Like, he gets close to her, like over the shoulder, but then he gets restrained by that
little
little button.
I remember. So, yeah, okay. And that's it. That's it. He doesn't really manage to get any assaults in. He tries, but he doesn't do it.
But he's very quickly shut down.
Yes.
And otherwise, this is actually, I think, a good character development episode for the both of them, for Kaori and Ryo, and also seeing that this is a very big part of Kaori's characterization is that she does have this much bigger soft spot for orphans, not knowing that she's one herself.
And also really growing into her own abilities on her own without terribly too much help from others.
Well, specifically from Ryo.
Right. Ryo didn't help her steal all the stuff from Mr. Penis's house. He barely helped her here at that ending where she's blowing up these warehouses. He was there, he was involved, but like she's really the one that just decimated the place.
No, like the most Ryo actually did was he did do some important stuff. He saved Keiko, he stopped the one guy from shooting back at Kaori, and then he probably killed the lawyer in that car crash.
Entirely possible.
I'm gonna call that a KO on his part.
Okay.
So we've got all this development between Kaori and Ryo this week. Next week's episode, we're going to shift over to some really important characterization with Umibozu, and we're going to introduce a new character that's going to stick around for the rest of the whole series, Miki.
Yeah, I'm excited about the Miki stuff. There's some weird stuff, but also it's kind of sweet, I guess, in a way. I don't know. She grows on you. There's just a lot of women that kind of look the same for a while, and Miki is one of them. But Miki's important, especially
Miki's
to
a very
Umibozu.
important. It's not nothing to say that Miki is important in that she's the only other person that's going to show up that's going to stick with the cast from this point on.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, that's worth noting. It's going to be this real big to-do with Umibozu and their whole backstory, and we're going to hear more with Still Love Her at the end of every episode, and yeah, it kind of grows on you. It's not my favorite because I really, really liked Supergirl. But, you know, as it gets more into fall and winter, yeah, it's more the season that you want to hear that song. It is. It's just not my favorite.
All right.
But you're going to hear more of it, Kaylin, next week.
So come back next time when we cover the 39th episode of City Hunter 2, Umi, What a Sexy Guy! Beautiful Sweeper Miki Gets Close, Part 1.
And if you want to catch us outside this podcast, you can always find us both over on most social media. I'm at JoshKnightTheFirst.
And I'm at MarzGurl. Thank you all so much for listening to our 89th episode of MokkoriPlay. And if you don't come back next episode, I'm gonna hit Josh with a paintball gun.
You don't even own a paintball gun.
I did once.
What happened to it?